There's no legal definition for hate speech. Generally speaking, though, hate speech is when a speaker attempts to vilify, humiliate, or incite violence against a group of people based on their race, gender, sexual orientation, social status, or really any other defining characteristic. Although it might be morally wrong, hate speech is protected under the First Amendment. In other words, people living in the United States have the right to spread hateful messages. Not only is it legal, it's now easier more than ever to spread these messages through the use of social media, which is why hate speech has become such a pressing issue. Hate speech can be dangerous because many times just a spiteful tweet can turn into an act of violence. According to the Center for the Study of Hate Extremism at California State University, hate crimes within the last year have fallen 7%. Though the total amount of hate crimes have decreased, the amount of hate crimes that have been directly against Asian Americans rose 150% from the start of 2019 to 2020. As you can see on this graph, it just visually represents how hate against Asian Americans has really skyrocketed since the start of the pandemic. Activists and researchers believe that the increase in attacks in hate speech against Asian Americans has been fueled by the coronavirus pandemic. In fact, the United Nations issued a report that recent surges in racist attacks can be linked to public statements and social media posts that refer to the virus as the Chinese virus, the Wuhan virus, and the Kung flu. Former President Donald Trump referred to coronavirus in this way many times in a number of speeches and tweets and at his rallies. As you can see, here are a number of tweets that Trump tweeted during his presidency and during coronavirus that refers to COVID as the Chinese virus. As a matter of fact, the University of California at San Francisco found that these tweets that Trump tweeted, especially this one on March 16th, has shown that they are directly responsible for a major increase in anti-Asian hashtags. Researchers analyzed 700,000 tweets using hashtag Chinese virus, and over 50% of them had anti-Asian sentiments. Hate speech does have its implications. Extreme rhetoric, such as in this case against Asian Americans, can lead to violence. Unfortunately, we do see this happening as hate crimes against Asian Americans have been increasing in our country. We have seen just last week during a horrible shooting that 6 Asian Americans were killed. Though it's not proven, but many fear that this was an anti-Asian bias provoked the man to kill these women. Though this is an extreme example against Asian Americans, Asian Americans face discrimination and poor treatment every single day in the United States. According to a Stop AAPI hate report, Asian Americans within this last year have been verbally assaulted, shunned, spit, and coughed on. It's horrifying to think that these things are happening in our country, but they are happening every day and at an increasing and an alarming rate. As I mentioned earlier, hate speech may be morally wrong, but it's not entirely illegal in the United States. Though people who spread hatred against certain groups of people won't be facing any jail time, there are actions that we can all take to fight against hate speech. First, we can speak up if we witness any kind of hate crime or hate speech and stand up for those who are being abused. Second, we can refrain from using hate speech online or reporting any hateful content if you see it. This has already been taking place because, social media platforms such as Facebook have been blocking content that attacks people for who they are. So this is already happening in some cases. And lastly, we can fight for policy change to put more restrictions on hate speech. Since hate speech has become increasingly prevalent in our society today, it's important that there are restrictions and that people are held accountable.